You're watching the HSBC Asian Sevens Series. This is a bowl semi-final between one of the surprise packages of the tournament, Laos, and China, who've had pretty disappointing couple of days so far. Got their first victory this morning against Uzbekistan, 22-0. But Laos have been playing incredible rugby, and they upset the UAE 21 points to 12 this morning. Mike Rehu with you after lunch, and Dean Hirohini. Dean, the Chinese should have too much firepower here for the Laotians, but by crikey, they play with a lot of passion, don't they?
They have, and you got to look at the team of the Laos. Have just what they've done in the last few days has just got better and better as the game went on.
Yeah, they had a little hiccup or two too. They lost one of their players, Chris Mastaglio, who scored a try in the first minutes of the first game yesterday and then pulled his hamstring. He was one of their influential players at standoff. China have had some horrible injuries too. We saw a nasty break yesterday for Sun Qiangshan. So a little knock on there from a Chinese hand. So scrum 15 in. One of the influential players for Laos, I've been very impressed with him, is the guy who's at the tight head of the scrum. We'll see him in just a second. The prop closest to you, that's the Chinese team, but on the left is a guy called Fofet, who really is a great ball runner with the ball in hand. And he gets pushed off in that scrum though. So China running a set play here by the looks. Tap kick. We go to the left. Simple move, but there's some space here for Wu Diaofeng. It's an inside ball that Li Chuang cannot pick up. It's William Luan Thraf. Interesting scrum signal there from Warren Needham. Looked like a temple rather than a scrum. Nice little upward palms.
Let's see what the Laos team have got under their belts in terms of attack.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Nothing by the looks of it. Chinese looking for some support. There's the big man, Chen Yongqian, who's gone over in the tackles. So, yeah, these scrums are always a bit of a lottery when they come out the back, aren't they? Some tidy ball. It's a tough life being a scrum half in the Sevens game, that's for sure.
Yeah, great pressure by the Chinese team, and they just got some great sides up front there, and maybe that's going to count on them for this particular match. So I think Laos has just got to pretty much set pieces, just get it in and get it out as quick as you can. Just can't afford to combat the bigger size of the Chinese players. So got the kick to come, and yeah, it's just gone left of the post. So the current score, 5 points to 0, Chinese lead.
So the previous game we saw Chinese Taipei beat Singapore 21-7. So the winner of this game will take on the Chinese Taipei team for the bowl title.
Yeah, it was an interesting first round of the bowl semi-final. So I think it'd be a good matchup if one of these teams take it out. But it looks like China have got a little bit too much strike power around.
So Dino's going to go for his lunch break, and we're going to bring in a special guest as we see Laos trying to peg back the Chinese. And we have a VIP in the commentary box now. It's Dai Rees, head of performance and coaching, that's right, with the Hong Kong Rugby Union. Is that correct title?
That's right, Mike.
Very good. I'm glad I got that right. Di, thanks for coming up. Have a bit of a chat about Sevens rugby and Hong Kong rugby in general. Happy so far this weekend? 3 good victories.
Yeah, we've had some good victories, but we haven't been pushed really. First opening halves, it's been pretty tight for the first couple of minutes, but obviously now the business end of the weekend, and a very talented career team next up in the semi-final in about an hour's time.
Well, they've got about 3 injuries, haven't they? So playing with a squad of 9, do you perceive that as being an advantage going into a big clash like this?
It can be at the end of a long weekend, and particularly today. The rain has gone over the last 24 hours and we've got glorious sunshine, and the heat is somewhat debilitating out there at the moment. So yeah, we're hoping that our full fit squad of 5 substitutions maybe can come through in the last 5 minutes of the semi-final.
But that was something very important to you yesterday. You seemed to give everybody at least a game and a half, as you mentioned in one of the press conferences. So everybody's travelling well in your squad?
Yeah, massive for us. It's the second tournament of the season. First tournament we had to put 24 guys out, 12 up in Nanjing for the national games. So it's the first time the squad has been together with some nice new blood in it, and it's great that we've been able to expose everyone to sort of 2 games.
We're happy with the runners-up spot at the China Games?
That's a leading question, Mike, I know that.
No, it's an open question, answer it how you like.
Disappointed, obviously. We beat the China champions, Beijing, in the semi-final, which was the old guard, I suppose, the China team of last year, and with Johnny coaching them. But then to come unstuck in the final in the last 20 seconds. But it was a similar story to a team playing in Malaysia as well in the last 20 seconds against Japan. So we had a tough weekend of 2 silver medals.
What do you make of this Chinese squad? You weren't in KL. They were quite disappointing there. A little improvement in their performance this weekend, but from what you saw at the China Games, is there some depth, is there some talent there to make a decent Chinese squad? You know, with the Olympics in 3 years' time, you know that the Chinese like to get serious about these gold medals. Is there a chance that they can improve?
There's a huge athlete base in China. Their biggest problem is the politics of the game and the size of the country. This has improved. There's a couple of the Shandong team actually in this team that beat us. What they struggle with in Chinese rugby is the size of it, the enormity of it, the internal fighting, and this team is unrecognisable from a team that's developed over the last 2 years on the circuit. So it's another transition, yet another. Probably in my 5 years in Asia, we've seen about 3 or 4 transitions in Chinese rugby, and it doesn't help the continuity and the development of the game. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Johnny earlier on, obviously one of the talismanic players that have come from China. What effect does he have on players and the way he grooms them?
I very much expected to see Johnny here actually with the national squad, and it'd be interesting to find out what has happened regarding his position as national coach, and indeed a lot of the talented players that were with Beijing. If they were to just harness the Beijing players and the Shandong players, they've got a team that could challenge the top Asian countries, including Japan and ourselves and Korea. So it needs to be harnessed, and unfortunately, I think it's dictated by politics, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of continuity within the system.
So just giving you the score at half-time, it's 10 points to 0 to China over the brave Laos team. And we're talking to Di Rees, one of the senior men in the Hong Kong setup. So you obviously had the runners-up spot in KL as well, but it is indicative of the depth that you have in Hong Kong rugby that you were able to achieve twice in the same weekend. You must be reasonably happy, even though the winning titles eluded you in both venues.
Yeah, we've had a really interesting summer. 4 or 5 years of hard work. We couldn't have dreamed of putting out 2 competitive squads to compete at the top end of 2 Asian tournaments 2 years ago. We went to the Youth Asian Games, and our boys won gold at the first Youth Asian Games, and the girls won bronze. And last weekend we were in the first of the Asian Series under 20s, and now at under 20s with 6 under 18-year-old boys winning the cup there. So it's been a great summer, and we've got some strength in depth coming. Rafe Morrison was at that tournament. Josh Peters, who's there this weekend, was captain in the team last weekend. So the future's bright. We've got quality players coming through, and we've just been accepted as an elite sport at the Sports Institute. So it's bright, and things are changing but moving in the right direction.
So can you reveal what your goals are for the next 1 to 5 years as a union? Is 15s still important? Is sevens the game that you'll be chasing? Can you manage in both spheres?
I think we have to. I mean, we're a proud nation. We've got a great setup. The union have committed to a performance end. Our league rugby, our league structure is very much based around the 15-a-side game. You know, we've got a tour coming up for our 15s guys, an exciting tour that can't be announced at the moment as of discussions today. But we've got a tour in December to prepare for the World Cup qualifiers, and Lee Jones, who's coached Wales in the past with Graham Henry, heads up that element of it. We've got quality coaches in Andy Hall and Sam Pinder, and the 15s game is very, very much alive and kicking in Hong Kong. And is very much bigger than the sevens game in Hong Kong, indeed, because we don't have a domestic sevens setup, and we are trying to work on that. We've just had our first 2 domestic sevens competitions for the first time in many, many years. So,
yeah, how's that going? I think Valley and Football Club won the first 2. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got a mini series, first 2, and the final one will be in the week of the sevens to celebrate our domestic game. And Valley won the first one, then Carmen stuck in the second, and Football Club are leading the top of the rankings at the moment with a win and a runners-up. But there's a guy here. We trialled it this year. Max Woodward, who's in this squad, came back late from 4 years in the UK, part of our age grid setup, and performed well in those 2 tournaments, and gave us as a coaching team the ability to pick him for this second series event, which without that domestic programme we wouldn't have been able to pick Max, because we wouldn't have seen him play sevens. So Max is really here today and this weekend as a result of good performances in our domestic sevens competition.
It's interesting to me as an outsider to look at some of the development of some of your players and the positions they play at. Watching a lot of 15s, you see some of the backs like Alex McQueen, Lee Jones, who end up as forwards in sevens. Is it easy for them to make a transition? A guy like Alex McQueen, did he ever think 7 or 8 years ago he'd be jumping in the line-out in an international sevens tournament?
No, I mean, Alex has been one of our leading athletes, and when we had the likes of Keith Robertson, Alex was an outside back. He was playing centre, covering people like Rowan, covering the wing, and he was too good not to be in starting sevens. So 2 years ago it was an investment in his ability to play 9 at sevens rugby, and it's paid off. He's one of our more athletic guys. He chases our kickoffs and goes up even when the bigger forwards are on the field. So he plays a sevens sort of forward and ball winning role, but a scrum half where he wouldn't probably go anywhere near in the 15s game. But it's a indication of the way that the game is going.
So China get their 3rd try there through Li Chuan. So they're well on track to get their 2nd victory of the day, beating Uzbekistan in the quarter.
Strange to see China down in this part of the draw, but seems to have been something that's gone on in China the last couple of years, with them not making Hong Kong sevens for the first time in the tournament's existence last year, and disappointing really, because we need a strong China in Asia and in Asia sevens.
It seems as though they're a little rudderless. For years they did have Johnny at the helm, and he added direction, he added that general that you need, and it's been a very interesting role that Jamie Hood's played for you in the last couple of tournaments. He's a guy who's very versatile, obviously, and that's probably counted against him in his 15s career, but it really must be an advantage to have a guy like that as a component in your wheel. Yeah,
I mean, again, 18 months ago, Keith Robertson was a world-class sevens player for Hong Kong, and we probably couldn't imagine doing without him. And Keith is set to return as a qualified pilot next month to Hong Kong, and whereas the 18 months gone, but it's been made a lot easier by the form of Jamie Hood in particular, but also Ben Rimini coming into the team, and of course Ben is really stamping his authority on a 10 slot as well. But we're comfortable then. Jamie's comfortable playing at scrum half at 9, where he did for our silver medal Asian Games, and of course now he's able to relieve Rowan in the centre, and we're lucky enough now to have 9 or 10 full-time athletes at the Institute as of the 1st of August. Jamie is one of those, and already we've seen the benefits of him and the squad training full-time.
So just getting back to your hint that you'd be going on tour, it's somewhere in the northern hemisphere, one would have to say.
It won't be, actually. It'll be unfortunately it's out of the northern hemisphere window, so it'll be probably to warmer climes. It needs to be confirmed. Okay. It's probably as far as you can get away from Hong Kong. So no guessing there. South America maybe somewhere, but
Yeah.
hopefully we can get something confirmed, because it's vital that our 15-a-side boys get the opportunity to play against opposition at our world rankings between the 20s and 30s before we come up against Japan, Korea and new boy Sri Lanka in the A5N for World Cup repechage and qualification.
Here's Folfet, the guy I was talking about earlier, who's one of their standout players. As Laos get in the attack mode and maybe get a chance to get a consolation try. No, it's broken down. Chinese player intercepting the pass. So yeah, you've had a string of 15s tours in the past to the Northern Hemisphere, playing some big bulky teams like Germany and the Netherlands. That must have benefits ultimately, as you say, when you face the Asian teams.
Yeah, certainly. You know, it was a conscious decision that when I first came into town, we were only ever playing Asian teams, and really it was a comfort zone thing. To take the guys to cold, frosty, dirty grounds against big forwards in Europe was a conscious decision. However, we probably experienced the worst 2 winters in the last 50 years, and it hasn't been so bad since we decided to go to Econ and Dubai. But yeah, it was tough tours, and we needed to ensure that we completed fixtures. We had one fixture cancelled against Holland on our last tour to Europe, so it's tough that time of year.
Lifestyle-wise, how are you enjoying Hong Kong? You've obviously been 4 or 5 years, is it?
5 years now,
years,
yeah. It's I consider it my home. My 3 children are in school, and 2 younger ones, you know, really. I've been brought up in Hong Kong for the last 5 years, and it's a home for myself and my family now. And hopefully long may it continue. And, you know, looking forward to the next phase, I suppose, of development of both Asian rugby and Hong Kong rugby.
So this weekend, it was notable in the team hotel how blonde your team is. Obviously, Kwok Ka-chun is getting married this weekend. Congrats to him, and a few of his mates, rugby mates, are unavailable this weekend. But you know, as far as the development of local players goes as well, are we going to see some of these local players through? I know it's a great sort of, from a marketing perspective for you guys, it's great to have these players in the team and develop local rugby. Can you see those guys coming through as well?
Yeah, no doubt. You know, Kwok Ka-chun is the first time actually we've only had one full Chinese player in the squad for a long time in Yukam Singh. But you know, Doggy took away Tsang Hing Hong as well, and a number of the other key players. I had to put my foot down with regarding our pace out wide, so you know, Yukam Singh would have been there, Saloom, but I asked Doggy if he could release him from his wedding. There'd been murder in Wales if you got married in the season, but as it would in New Zealand. Like, but you know, it's one of those things, and we'll ride it. Simon Lung has come back in again to the squad after a couple of tournaments out, but we've got strength in depth. We got young kids coming through like Hugo Chow, who's an exciting local Chinese boy who played in the under-20s last week and was part of our Asian Games winning team. So we've got a lot of young talent, and indeed when we talk about locals, you know, we talk about blonde boys. You know, one of the most exciting players, Hong Kong born, is somebody like Rafe Morrison. Yes. Hong Kong born, eligible for the Olympics, and so people forget that a profile of a Hong Kong team is very mixed.
Yeah,
and in bringing Tomasi to the last tournament, first Fijian I think, or one of the first Fijians to play for Hong Kong. That's 14 other countries now that have come through my hands in the last 5 years. So it's a great place. It's a challenge, but it's a great place to be coaching rugby.
Okay, so let's say that you perform to expectations and you manage to take care of Korea in the semi-final. Great final, last leg in KL against Japan. And you know, you were having the better of them up until the last couple of minutes from a neutral's perspective. And then Lameki was the player of the tournament, broke through and scored the winning try. I mean, how do you approach a match like this? How can you beat Japan? They've obviously got strength and depth, like you.
I really think that first of all, it's going to be an exceptionally tough semi-final against Korea. Korea are looking on performances as good as us and as good as Japan. They really should have upset Japan in the semi-final in Malaysia a few weeks ago. It's 14-0 up, and just before half time they let it slip. So we're not counting our chickens at the moment. Yes. We've got Korea, and indeed then it's going to be a different profile to the game. The rain is gone. There's going to be a dry ball. The footing is a little bit better, so it'll be a different kind of game too, and hopefully it'll suit us a little better than Japan.
You've seen the guys with the footwork in the Japanese squad. That's probably where they've got an edge, there's Henry and Lemeki. How do you shut those guys down from a layman's perspective? What do you say to your team to manage those guys?
It is, they play a particular kind of game, you know. They use those big guys, they use the big fellas up the middle to create contact areas, and it's about slowing their possession down. It's the same for Korea. Korea on the front foot with quality ball, you know, we're unstoppable. And really, the bottom line is with Japan and Korea, with their tails up, with quick ruck ball, contact area ball, they're unbeatable. So our focus is always to get off the defensive line, close space down very quickly, and to make sure that fairly, I may add, to slow down contact area ball so that we can get our defensive line set to get off the line. But the key is slowing their game down.
So brave performance from Laos, but the final score 30